Secondly, militarily. Jerry mentioned that I knew Ronald Reagan, and Ronald Reagan was a fellow that after World War II, when the United States had engaged in this discussion with Russia, that is, they had nuclear weapons, we had nuclear weapons, and we had a defense policy called MAD, Mutual Assured Destruction. That is, you attack us, we attack you, we blow each other to kingdom come, therefore let's don't do that. They eventually developed rockets. And so we had airplanes and we had a security system that if a plane came, we could shoot down a plane. But when they developed these missiles that could hit America, we had nothing that could defend us. And Ronald Reagan, now 20 years later, when he becomes president, he says, if someone shoots a missile at America, what do we do about it? And the answer was, nothing. He said, that's not a good program. How about if we develop something that shoots down the missile before it hits us? And all of the common sense folks, Heritage Foundation, all these other think tanks, they said, that makes smart. Congressman said, oh no, we don't want to do that. Why? We don't know, we just don't want to do it. And so they made fun of it. They called it Star Wars. They said, besides, they said, you can't hit a missile with a missile anyway. And Ronald Reagan's response was, we're Americans, we can do this. And so they developed a system over time that said they practiced. And they developed a system where they could defend, they could hit a missile in the air. But in order to protect America, a missile would have to go outside the atmosphere. And so Congress passed a law that was in effect for over 12 years that said they couldn't even test a missile that would go out into the atmosphere, which meant what? It meant we developed this system. We gave it to Israel, so Israel could defend against missile attack. We gave it to our friends in Europe so they could defend against missile attack, but America was still vulnerable. Until finally, when George W. Bush became president, he, along with the Congress, decided that we're going to put in a system that will defend America as well. A strategic defense initiative that Reagan had spoken about all those years earlier, we're finally going to do it. And in order to do it, as you know, you have to have a triangulation for GPS. You have to have latitude, longitude, and altitude. And so you had the satellite receptors in Alaska, you had them in the Pacific, and the third part of the triad was that the radars would be in the Czech Republic and the missiles would be in Poland. And when that would be completed in May of 2009, then if anyone sent a missile to America, we could shoot it down before it hit us. Most people think that would be a good thing to do. But we chose a new president in January of 2009, and the first thing that he did was cancel the agreement with the Czech Republic and with Poland to make sure that it didn't get completed. In America at this moment, if Iran or China sends a missile by accident or design to America, we are defenseless against it. And it so offended the Poles that Lech Wałęsa, who led the freedom charge against the Russians and got his nation's independent, became its first free president. When Barack Obama came to visit Poland, he refused to meet with him. And when Mitt Romney came about 6 weeks ago, he went, and instead of having a standard press conference like you do, say, this is a good man, we're welcome here, he said, for the sake of freedom, this man needs to be president of the United States. Our national defense, in order to defend on the field, you have to have an army. A friend, Admiral Thomas Moore, was a fellow that was in charge of the interrogation of the Japanese High Command at the end of World War II. He just died a few years ago. And I would engage him in conversation to learn as much as I could. I asked him one time, I said, how did the Japanese think they could attack us at Pearl Harbor and we wouldn't respond? He said, Bob, he said, we asked everybody that, and they all gave us the same answer, which means they'd already agreed upon it, that they weren't just making it up. He said one of the things was that the United States had a draft, and it only passed the Congress by one vote, which showed a certain reluctance on our part. Number two is that we had gone through Army drills and exercises in Louisiana and Texas, and we used cardboard tanks and wooden guns. In other words, the United States had such a weak army that they knew they couldn't defend if they tried to. And they felt that if presented with a fait accompli, if they woke up one morning and found their navy was destroyed, they would have neither the will nor the capacity to respond. And so it invited aggression. And the day that they attacked, on December 7th, 1941, the United States Army was the 17th largest army in the world. It was smaller than Romania. And, of course, we know the consequences. As you saw the debate that took place just a week ago. Under this president's plan, the United States Army at the end of next year will be smaller than it was in 1941, and the Navy will be smaller than any time since 1915.